Yeah, 3 games this week coming up. Who will we go to tonight?
UPI will start tonight, and then we'll just kind of take it game by game after that.
Look at this past weekend. What were some of the pairings that you really liked that we might see tonight?
I liked our decor, the combinations. They seem to start to develop chemistry together. I thought Davies and Loxonen played really good together, so that was a good thing. But I thought all the D pairs played well. I think that there was little glimpses of synergy and chemistry between the forward lines, but we had to juggle a little bit again on Saturday with Malone out. So the lines will look a little more similar to Friday right now, but obviously we have Anders Bjork coming into the lineup today as well.
You slot him in there, or how does he maybe help out with that young forward group?
Well, he's been an NHL player for pretty much his whole pro career, right? He's only played, I think, 29 games in the American Hockey League, which is a real credit to him that you can leave college and step right into the National League. I was with him at the Men's Worlds when I was an assistant, so we have some history together. Obviously, Donnie does a great job of integrating our staff in Buffalo's camp, so I feel like we have a little bit of a relationship already, which is helpful. And our goal is to help Anders just get that life and that confidence back in his game, so he can earn that right to go back to the NHL and be the full-time NHL player that he has been through most of his career.
Earlier this week, you talked about how physical and aggressive Belleville will play tonight. How do you prepare the younger forwards for that?
Told them to expect violence. So that's part of playing Belleville and Ottawa. They're physical, heavy teams. You're gonna get hit, and I think that you just have to wrap your head around that. I think the games that we had success against them last year, we understood that. We're not going to allow them to push us around. We're going to be physical back. We're going to be willing to take hits to make plays, but we also want to stay out of the nonsense that sometimes can come with it, and yelling at the refs and scrums after every whistle. And we want to be physically competitive within the shift, and try to stay away from some of the other stuff that they can pull you into.
I noticed this summer Weissbach taking a leadership role at camp at Prospects Challenge, especially taking Kisakov under his wing. What have you noticed in him since returning to Rochester with a second summer in Buffalo under his belt?
Yeah, he's a very different approach, and he was working towards this approach last year, but his approach right now versus 12 months ago, it's night and day. 12 months ago, you're having to talk to him about practicing hard every day and showing up with an intent to get better and putting extra work in the shooting room and trying to get here a little earlier, not just on time. And now he's one of the first guys here every morning. He's one of the first guys in the shooting room every morning. He has a real purpose to how he goes about his daily business. He's being a leader. So he easily could have lived alone this year. He's mature enough to have that, but instead he's living with Rosine and Cederquist because they're rookie fellow Swedes, and so he can help take care of them a little bit if they need that. So he's just done so many things on and off the ice that we're excited about.
When it comes to time in the shooting room, I know he said he's trying to shift from a pass-first mentality to being a shooter. What does it take in a coach's eyes to do that and to really take charge of that?
I always would tell our guys that when I coached the USA that if you really want to change your shot, it's probably 500 to somewhere between 500 and 1,000 pucks a week off the ice for 3 or 4 or 5 months consecutively to make a difference, to impact how you shoot it, how hard you shoot it, how quick you get it off. Because it's not just about going down there in the shooting room and shooting. It's the art of changing the angle and shooting and picking your spot, of pulling it in and shooting and picking your spot. So there's a real diligent process you have to go through, and it is tedious, but it's those incremental gains that you sometimes don't feel like you're making, that all of a sudden 12 months you realize you made a ton.
With Anders, how do you handle a player, like you said, with not been down here before? I know that's part of the business and stuff like that, but how do you, maybe more mentally, even more than physically?
Yes, more mentally. I waited. I didn't call him until after he cleared because that's a weird 24 hours for a professional hockey player. Not knowing if someone else is going to take you and your life gets disrupted and all those different things. So once he cleared, I called him yesterday afternoon and just told him that the biggest thing I want him to do is come down and have fun. And when you're sometimes playing in the NHL and you're in and out of the lineup, and it becomes more of a job and less of a passion. And you're trying to stay in the lineup, and when you're in the lineup, you're worried a little bit. If I make a mistake or two, I'm out of the lineup. And that's a hard way to exist, first of all, as a player, but it's a hard way to exist as a human. And so my goal is to help him refuel that passion and the love for the game. None of us started in this game because we wanted to be in the NHL. We all started it because it's fun and we love it. And so let's help them get to that spot first. And usually when you help them get to that spot, their game usually comes with it.
They have to turn the page on last season. And I was looking at the roster, it's like 11, 12 new guys. It really is a new crop. How do you continue to build? Is that culture that keeps the same thing while the players may come in and out? It's the culture of being tough, being physical, being fast. Is that what kind of keeps the glue year to year?
I think, yes, it is culture, but culture is an evolving thing. It's always moving. If you ever feel, I've made this mistake in the past, if you ever feel like your culture is set and it's in a good spot, it's going to rear its ugly head somewhere in the next 12 months. And it's because it's never set. You're always fighting for culture. And how do you fight for culture? It's how you treat people and how you act every day. And most importantly is then our leaders and our staff. Right? And it's not just the coaching staff. That goes to our equipment managers and our trainers and our strength coach. How our staff acts and treats people and treats each other every day. How Michael Mersch and Sean Malone and Ethan Prowl act and treat each other every day. Those are the things that can hold the glue together and then bring guys in from the outside that aren't as familiar with it. So I feel very comfortable with who the leaders of our program are. And you have guys that those captains and you feel great about it, but it is something you try to fight for every day.
Big picture of some things stay the same. You want to continue the success of being a Calder Cup contending team, but some of that stuff is out of your control because of guys coming in and out of the lineups, guys moving every year. Is that the biggest challenge of hitting the reset button to go climb that mountain all over again?
Yeah, it is. When I was at Denver as a young assistant, we were number one in the country all year. We got upset in the national tournament. We didn't win the championship. And the next year, our slogan, our motto, was basically unfinished business, for lack of a better term. I don't know if it was exactly that. And we underachieved that whole year because our whole mindset was on the end goal and not on the daily work and the daily things you have to do to get there. And we changed that the next year and focused on that, and we won a national championship with probably less good of a team. So it was a real great lesson for me as a young coach that you can't start halfway up the mountain again, right? As close as we were, and we do feel like we could have won a Calder Cup last year if we had stayed healthy and contended for that. But as close as we were, you got to go back down to base camp and you got to reform as a team and build those relationships and start earning that trust in each other to become a great team again.
As a coach, is that what drives you? Is going back to base camp to climb the mountain all over again?
Yes, that's the most fun thing as a coach. And what is really fun in the American League is you get to practice a lot. And you have to love practice. I love practice. I absolutely I love practice as a player. I love practice as a coach. And in pro now, it's convincing the players that you can get better in practice because you can. And our guys have done a really good job buying into that. And you're trying to find your habits and your consistency within those practices. Okay. Bill?
Hi, Seth. When you get a guy like Anders that's never, he's barely played in the AHL, it's been a few years, what's the dynamic as far as just kind of his assimilation? I mean, is it, it's probably going to be a little odd for him. What do you think that's going to, what could that be like maybe, I guess?
Well, first of all, he's a really great young man. So that part you don't worry about. I think the positive thing right now we're trying to build in our organization is that there's cohesion and there's no silos, and we're all in this together. And that starts, Kevin Adams operates that way. Like Kevin Adams calls me a lot. It's not just me dealing with Jason Karmanos all the time. And so players see that there's that. Donnie and I talk. Donnie allows our coaching staff to run parts of NHL training camp. And so therefore, their players like Anders get to know us and get to spend time with us and get to be coached by us. They had us on the bench for NHL preseason games. So all of that is done with intent by Kevin and by Donnie so that there's symmetry within our organization, that if players are called up, they feel comfortable with the players and with the staff up. If players are sent down, they feel comfortable with their teammates and their staff when they're down. So I think that makes it easier. It's always hard to get sent down. Nobody wants that. Anders has handled it exactly how I anticipated it, like a pro. And he's excited to come and help us try to win a hockey game tonight.